All right, welcome to RxPerience. It's your host, Tom Hansel and Chad Wers, coming to you with some special guests today. We've got two gentlemen that have been doing this for a long time. They're probably most famously known for starting Tabula Rasa, Care Kinesis, and now they're out to another adventure with Galenus Care. So I want to welcome Cal Knowlton and Joe Filippo, if I say that right, Filippoli.
That's it.
Filippoli, yes. And welcome to our studio. Thanks for agreeing to do the podcast with us.
Thank you. You're not the first one to stumble on that last name either.
Well, I say it in my sleep often, so just
That's it.
Joe's calling me.
That's it.
But no, thank you guys for coming on board. So what we typically do is we have, you guys start off and just kind of give a little background, a little history, and why you're in pharmacy, how you got involved in pharmacy. And so I know there's two of you. I'll respect our elders, Kel, and let you go first. I know you're chomping at the bit, but you go back quite a way, and you have a lot of great experience. So just tell us a little bit about your history, and then we'll switch over to Joe.
When I was going through the birth canal, I remember seeing the light. Is that where you wanted me to start?
Yeah, your pharmacist origin story. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Maybe a little bit further down the road. After,
okay.
After they released you from prison. So we start with there.
Well, I've been, in pharmacy for many years, and we were fortunate. I had the first pharmacy in New Jersey, and in 1973 or 74, we were the first ones in New Jersey to have computers. And it was from the gentleman that's ASAP. He was the sales guy at the time. That sold us the computer. And so we've been in the technology all along. And fast forward to where we are. When we were in hospice in the 80s and 90s, we started our first technology, which was really pharmacodynamics. Led was sedation and anticholinergic. And then when we moved over to PACE in 2010, Program for All-Inclusive Care of the Elderly, we really added some pharmacokinetics to it. And that was just amazing. And then we were very fortunate to get a couple of people out of Steel Mount of Montreal, the dean of the School of Pharmacy up there and his wife, both really deep scientists. And they came with us in 2015 and really bolstered the pharmacokinetics, including then pharmacogenomics, and also prolonged QT. So I apologize. That's the president. I'm going to let it go. So we then started in 2022 the third version. So we had the 90s, the 2010, and now we have the third version. It took us about almost 2.5 years to get there, and it's just really helps pharmacists now. I mean, just amazing. And with AI in it too and things like that. We have 7 different algorithms, and it's everything that we want to know about drug metabolism, multi-drug simultaneous analysis. And why we'd start this, our 12th company, why did we start this one? Because the problem's still there. And the problem is that no one's doing anything nefarious, but they're going to like 5 or 6 docs typically. And everybody has their own 15 meds, but there's 20,000 prescriptions and 100,000 over the counters. And it's mostly still, as it was since 1995, when prescriptions were prescriptions in the United States, it's still trial and error prescribing, or I should say preference-based prescribing. And what we've been trying to do is move from preference-based to personalized to precision and eventually be predictive. With AI, probably will be on our phones in the next couple of years. But it's a tough move because, there's so many tailwinds. How many countries out of the 195 have direct-to-consumer advertising? 2, us and New Zealand, right? How many companies in the world have PBMs who set up formularies that are dollar-based, not person-based? We're the only country that does that. It's just how we have a culture of a pill for every ill. So polypharmacy, 5 or more meds, and hyperpolypharmacy, 10 or more, is ubiquitous. And it's growing. It's hard to believe, but it's growing. If you look at the data from the LOWN Institute in Boston, they published a really good article 2 years ago. Not an article, it's a tome. And they're talking about overload in the elderly. And it's really true. And it's still happening, even worse now. So because that problem's still there and we still haven't been able to get enough pharmacists to help use the science, and we're still anchored with fill and bill a lot.
Yeah.
It's just a tough thing. And so what we've been trying to do is go into places where we can be price setters instead of price takers.
Well, Cal, just to catch you off here for a second, before we jump into deep, because this is the exact topic that we want to talk about, and how you guys are bringing that mentality and cutting edge thoughts to pharmacy. I want to really quick we're just going to call him Joe F. Joe F. So I don't mess that name up again. Just introduce himself, gives a little background, because he's been with you all along this entire ride. So just a little bit about Joe, and then we've got some questions specifically about what you're going towards.
Yeah, Joe was actually a nurse and delivered to me years ago.
So it all started when Cal and I were cellmates back 4 decades ago. No, just kidding. Thanks, Tom, for the handoff. Summary has been in technology actually for about 40 years. Hard to believe, but for my entire adult existence, I've been a technologist. About 30 of that has been healthcare. I joined forces with Cal somewhere about 1999 when we were starting the hospice company. And there I was the chief information officer that helped launch all the technology behind the business. So it's kind of one of these things where I'm the guy behind the guy, if I can say it like that. The ideas and the forethought that Cal and team puts out there and wants to move forward with, I'm the one that has to actualize it. So my job is really taking the toolbox and trying to make the best bench to bedside solution that I can from the science and the technology that comes out of the big brains of pharmacy, and Cal being the one. So of the 12 companies, Cal, that I think you started, I think I've been around for 8 of them. I think I counted one day. So I've been very fortunate to be on board this ride, and here we are doing it again.
That's awesome.
We won't tell them about the companies that fell apart.
No.
Yeah.
Did we have any of those?
That airplane company.
Oh.
But one of the most successful companies, it really in the history of our industry, was Tabula Rasa and Kerokinesis. And I got to know them personally because back in my day when I was running long-term care pharmacy down in North Carolina, I had a veterans facility that was literally right beside my pharmacy. And I told them I could walk the prescriptions over per MedPass, and they said, no, our pharmacy is Kerokinesis. And I'm like, but I can do 28,000 deliveries a day. And they said, no, our pharmacy is Kerokinesis. And so it was very, very impressive that they were very, focused on that and felt like they were getting everything needed, even though you guys were states away. But that was across the board nationally. And I know you guys focused on the PACE type of patient. And back then I probably didn't even know what PACE was. It's becoming more and more norm. But there's a lot of entrepreneurial mentality in that. I want you guys to talk a little bit about how that came about, how Tabula Rasa, how you concentrated on PACE and became really the first and only national PACE provider, maybe even still today. I mean, it's very impressive.
We had done, before we did that, we did hospice, and that was an odd story too. So, but anyway, Joe came along right when we were going national with it, but we were local with it for about 15 years before Joe came along. And we ended up being the first national hospice company with Hospice Pharmacia. And so then when we thought that in 2007, we kind of thought that hospice was on a nadir, because they went from, we did per diem pricing. as opposed to fee for service. And so with cancer patients, it'd be this per diem, with non-cancer, that per diem. We check it every quarter, that kind of stuff. And it was very, it was very helpful, but the government wanted to change, so everything had to be reported as a prescription. So we said, let's probably move on now, and that's when we fell into pace. And now we're there, but we're also with vets, which is a wonderful thing. We also have a couple other swim lanes that we're working in with people that are taking multiple drugs. That's wherever they're taking multiple drugs, that's where we try to go. And it's one of the things that I think that we have to embrace is the switch in prescribing from MDs to nurses. And that's an opportunity for us. Huge. If you've ever looked at a curriculum for the nurses that are doing the NP, the nurse practitioners, their amount of pharmacology is fairly smooth, fairly small. And so what we've done is one of our companies, we had, Joe, I guess we had about a dozen or half dozen nurse practitioners in southern New Jersey and in the Philadelphia area. And they would call on people that were shut in, that didn't have, and then we had pharmacists in the pod over here, tethered to each one. And it was wonderful. They loved it because they felt comfortable that this person really knew pharmacology and the pharmacokinetics and all that kind of stuff. And I need that, And so the more you think about what are the opportunities for the profession, it's not, we've said this before, it's not in counting pills, it's really in using what we learned in school through what we've been doing for a while. It's called collaborative practice, like you mentioned when we were talking before. And so we have a lot of collaborative practice going on where the pharmacists are triple certified, geriatrics and clinical decision support tools that we have, and also in a couple of other areas that help them. We certify them in collaborative practice too, because there's not a certification in that yet. Every state allows it and it has their own regs, but nobody's really taken and come through BPS and say, here's what we're going to do. So maybe we'll do it later. I don't know. But anyway, so we get them tied up with these nurse practitioners. And everybody loves it. And it's a good team thing. And we can do that. And all we need to do is have an attitude that it's possible. It's possible. If we have an attitude that it's not possible, then nothing's going to happen, right? So if we can help the profession learn that it's possible to use what you learned in school actively, and frankly, if you look at California, for just as one example, we're doing out there. I mean, once you're doing collaborative practice for a year out there, then you can do independent prescribing. I mean, that's off the edge. That's beyond the headlights, really. But that's where the puck's going ahead, because there's a dearth of docs, and there's a dearth of nurses. They said in the next 10 years there'll be 200,000 nursing jobs open. 200,000. I mean, that's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And NPs are doing a great job, but if they're tethered with us somehow, it's even a better job. And some of the docs that we're working with now will say, here's what we'd like to do. We'd like to work with you with your NPs and all that kind of stuff. And they'll say, I'm all in. Because when I was in a hospital doing my rounds, I always had a PharmD there. Mm-hmm. And now I don't. I'm out in the real world and I don't. So I think that we have such an opportunity. And I know that we did vaccines for a while, and that was probably good for us, but we didn't learn that stuff, that's not pharmacology. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was like a bit of a red herring. I hate to say that. I mean, financially it was good because it saved a lot of people, but it was, it was kind of one of those things that you say, geez, so couldn't we do something where we're the only ones that have this knowledge, the only ones that have this knowledge? Couldn't we effectuate that ourselves somehow? So anyway, that's kind of what we're doing.
I mean, I think that's the bridge is, the vaccine thing happened, I think it got accelerated because of the pandemic, particularly in our space in long-term care. But it was because we had access. We've always had access. And now it's about what can you do with that access? What's so important to deliver that we need to find the person that has the access. And I think we're getting to the point, and you've articulated it, just brilliantly, that we've got 20,000 prescriptions. We've got 100,000 over-the-counter meds. We have a population that is exploding over the age of 80 and 65. They have a propensity to take medications. And there's really only one practitioner that can sit at that very busy intersection and direct traffic, and that's the pharmacist. So how do we tool them? How do we engage the patient so that we can take advantage of the skill set that they have and make sure that they are providing the very best medication management for people that ultimately are in desperate need of medication management? And that's what you've done your career. That's what was sort of the foothold at Tabula Rasa and Care Kinesis was. That was an innovative practice setting that recognized the value of what you were bringing from a pharmacokinetic and a technology perspective. But now we're sort of in a world where almost everybody's there, and they need access to that. And how do we get it there? So talk a little bit about Galenus Care. Like what is it? How do pharmacists get involved, or what are you delivering? How do we amplify it?
Well, it's the same type of thing we were doing before, but we just needed to get a new system.
Yeah.
To be honest, so when we went public, it was the second company we took public. When we took this one public, though, and it was going well, and then when COVID hit, we really got killed.
Yeah.
Because instead of having a CAGR of 20% growth, it was like zero, right?
Yeah.
So you got killed with that stuff in the stock market. We were in the healthcare services sector, and there were 15 of us, and 10 of us. We all got killed, but 10 of us got hit with activists and stuff. And that was an education experience for me, too. But anyway, so we said, well, what can we do? What can we do? Let's come up with, well, we always wanted to start a new system again because of the science. Joe can tell you, it's not just the science, the technology from 2010 is a lot different than the technology from 2022, 23, 24, So that's really, we said, let's take a breath, take a couple years, get a team in, and we show that, and let's do this. So now we are commercializing it, I'll call it, in various swim lanes. And it's, there's just, like you said, there's just so much opportunity. You look at the VA, 200,000 soldiers come out every year. They finish their service. 38% of them have polypharmacy. Half of them have severe polypharmacy with mental and physical.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever get a chance to look at it, they just, I don't want to say throw, but they put them on a lot of medications simultaneously. And that's where we can come in. And that's what pharmacists can do. So I think that, we just have to make the opportunity. And say, look, we're going to come in and we can do this. And we can have a KPI that shows reduced falls, ER visits, hospitalization, and premature mortality if we do this in practice. Charge us to do that. Not on putting out pills, but charge us to do that and see how we can do it. So, but I think your point is well made. This science, fortunately, that we're using, a lot of it is now going to be available as the AI continues to grow. There's some weak spots now. If you talk about phenoconversion, stuff like that, we'll know what you're talking about. But if you just the basics though are starting to fill up, and I think that's going to be the key is it's going to be in your phone. For your dad's medicine is going to be here. You go to 7-Eleven, put in Tylenol PM, you can see what it does. But the key is we have to have a human in the loop because you have to have a learned intermediary to help somebody really understand what to do. And that's never going to happen with this thing. This is going to give you an alert or tell you thumbs up, thumbs down, but you have to have a learned intermediary. And that human in the loop is serious. I mean, you have it with with a lot of the devices that are out there and in healthcare and so forth. So we don't have to be afraid of it, but we have to be the knowledge expert that can help somebody walk it through. And I think, to your point, I think that's where we're going. I think that's where the puck's headed, and it's good. That's good news.
I mean, you can feel it as a pharmacist. People are always asking you questions about a loved one, mom or a dad or it's even somebody in their family, because they recognize that you know what you're talking about, and they can't get that from Google or AI, and they can't get the answer that they're looking for. So they're asking you because you're a friend, you live on their street or whatever. And that kind of demand is not unique to them. And it's the public is waking up to that. And they're saying, okay, where can I go get that? So I think it's coming. This busy intersection is coming where a lot of us that have older parents are now educated enough and familiar enough with a pharmacist. Obviously, if you are one, you're very familiar, but that if I have a problem, that's the first place I need to check. And I think it's a groundswell, and they will reach a tipping point. We're not there yet, but it's coming. You can see it when you're walking through Congress and you're talking to legislators. All of a sudden, yeah, I've got a grandparent in a nursing home, or my dad has dementia, or they've got this problem. They're on so many medications. Like it's now becoming sort of part of the conversation in the general vernacular, and that drives them to solutions. And this is a solution, and it's about getting in front of them.
I think your point is well taken too, because when you look at nursing homes, well, we didn't publish this study. I'm going to tell you what it was. We did it with our friends from Montreal about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it was an ACO that had, I think, about 60 nursing homes or more. And they wanted us to do a bell curve to see who's at risk for problems with falls and near visits. So when we do a bell curve in a commercial population, the tail of the curve is usually about 8 or 9% of the people. That's it. When we do it in hospice, it's about 15 to 18%, because a quarter of the hospice people are still cancer patients, and you do deprescribe, so it's that. But PACE is 20 to 25%. And then we were shocked. We did 11 of their nursing homes. How much was it? 12,000 people, I think. Joe, wasn't it something like that? 12,000 people. It wasn't 11. It was whatever it was, but it was 12,000 people out of their 60. 48% were in the tail of the curve. So we said, can we just get up? Let's try a pilot with 100 of these people. Mm-hmm. They were mostly in Kentucky and around that area. And
so, Joe, go ahead, Cal.
That was terrible. They were taking 20, 30 drugs. So what an opportunity for the consultant pharmacist to try and figure out, how can I do collaborative practice here? How can this is what I can do for this organization. Mm-hmm. I can keep them in there without falling. I can keep them in there without going to the hospital for stuff. Let me have a chance. Let's do it for a year. Yeah. And so, it's just it's a real good opportunity in long-term care. I mean, it's just because it's been since 74 when we had you have to have consultant pharmacists, or 76, whenever it was, but let's move it up.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree.
Joe, I without getting too proprietary, over technology, we talked about technology changing, but you guys are getting very, very cutting edge. We're talking about pharmacogenomics and those type of things that really just kind of exist at a very high level right now. But how do we take something like that, and what are the things that you can share with us from Galenus that you guys are really concentrating on to really make that kind of more of a scalable solution, to have genomics come in to actually help that patient, help the outcome, really, other than just kind of a hit and miss prescribing mentality?
Sure. I don't want to over buzzword us here, but AI is going to be transformational. We're harnessing AI in a number of different ways. and the delivery of the science into the hands of the prescribers, and then of course into the hands of the pharmacists. What we're seeing now is that AI is helping to surface what used to be this double top secret information behind the metabolism of all the drugs, right? It was there, it was published occasionally, but never really surfaced to a point where the masses had access to that data, and then to certainly even harness it as a tool or a solution. AI is helping us tremendously now by essentially taking the wrappers off of all that double top secret stuff, but now making it much more readily available, and even as a commodity. The large language models that are out there now that we all have access to have data that was never surfaced before. We can harness that now when we ask questions through our systematized approach, of course. We can ask these deep questions that are very complex, multi-drug simultaneous interactions, and how they move through different pathways, and what that means in a very particular patient's regimen. And we can surface to the pharmacist a series of recommendations, or at least things to be concerned about in a particular regimen. Here are these 12 meds. 3 of them go through the same pathway, the same genetic pathway, and 1 or 2 of them are probably going to do what they need to do, but 1 or 2 of them are not, because they're all going to be looking for the same pathway to get through the body. And we can surface that very quickly now. Before, it took a long time to surface that to concerned party, a prescriber, or to certainly our pharmacist. Now it comes much more quickly. It's much more precise, and now we can do something with it that we couldn't have done before. And that's help make recommendations back to the prescriber that they wouldn't ever have known had you not had access to this data so readily. So we are harnessing all of that process and putting it literally in the hands of the pharmacists and technicians, and allowing them to help with the population. Of course, attacking the most high risk first in a population, and then making our way through an entire population with recommendations. It's just a place where we've never been able to get to before, and we're getting there much faster and much better, much safer now than ever before, with AI as our major vehicle.
So here's the worst case scenario. You're a PhD in pharmacokinetics. You're working at a university. NIH isn't going to pay you anymore, and AI is taking over all the stuff. So it's Joe's right. It's very. You can do it yourself. Just ask AI to pick up the top 10 drugs used in the elderly in the United States, and put them together and give me a table of what possible interactions and stuff can happen.
But
Right.
we're raising the game, though. So what we're doing is allowing the pharmacists to operate at the top of their license now.
Yeah.
They're not doing the administrivia part. They're not writing reports based on the hours and hours of research they did on one patient. They're able to get the data they need much quicker, and it's already pre-formatted in most cases, and they just need to harness it and then make the recommendations that they need to make. And that's where a pharmacist should be operating. It shouldn't be in the data gathering part of the process. It should be in the helping to make recommendations and decisions. And you can see that it's working. I'm going to cite Governor Sherrill in New Jersey just signed legislation that gave advanced practice nurses the ability to prescribe. And that's without collaborative practice protocols in place. I think pharmacists are next up, and that we're going to see this hit pharmacy quickly. Maybe New Jersey's the first place this really gets a foothold. I look forward to that, because we're going to empower the pharmacists to make decisions quickly and accurately where they couldn't have done it so well before.
What's the why isn't CMS or why are they looking at doing something, whether that's a pilot or an innovation project with this technology, or are they? And then also, like manufacturers, wouldn't it behoove a manufacturer that had a product that may be a problematic product, really good, but potentially problematic in a polypharmacy situation, and say, we're going to provide this because we want our drug to work right. And in order for it to work right, you've got to do this pharmacogenomics, and you've got to have a pharmacist tailor your meds so that our product would work. Is that happening? You seeing things like that out there?
We were hopeful on one of them recently, and but it didn't work out. You know, in pharma, there's always a polemic between this is what I think and how can I market.
Yeah.
And they're two different groups of people, and you can't please everybody, you know.
Right.
So it's one of those things where you're getting paid to get that thing out there and market it, and you're getting paid to optimize it. Well, you know, so we didn't have any success. We spent a lot of time on it, but we didn't have any success on it. But that's okay, you know. You get up, you come up with a new idea.
Sure.
You say, where else can I do this? You know, and I think ASCAP has the cat's meow with long-term care right now.
Yeah.
If you can get a couple to do it, partner up with a couple of the big shots and say, look, we want to do this. We want to take 20 nursing homes and we're going to put a pharmacist in there that has some technology with them. And we want to do collaborative practice. Every state allows it now. And, you know, let's monitor the KPIs and see what happens. Let's monitor that bell curve.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We would love to do something like that.
Yeah. I mean, the need's there. I mean, we're all on the same page. And I think anybody with a little bit of common sense say, yeah, I want to make sure drug's going to work for me and it's the right drug for me. I don't want to try 5 different drugs. And so the outcomes, the patients, like everybody is kind of on board, but there are barriers. And I don't know if that's a barrier in just the understanding of the effectiveness of it, or if that's a congressional barrier, or if that's just simply like everything, a reimbursement barrier. What are the barriers that you guys are struggling with and trying to overcome?
Well, there's always going to be the reimbursement barrier, but you got to go around it. You got to go where people are willing to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in the group where you have elderly parents, like my wife's mother just fell and broke her hip, right? You know, so thank God it wasn't from meds, but you know, and they're on lots of meds. Let's say you're the action point. You want to make sure that this is taken at the right time of day to optimize it and not cause a problem in falling and stuff. Because not only is that expensive, but then they're out of commission for months and they're moaning, you know? So you really need to say, how much would the son pay? Would you pay $40 a month? Would you pay $50 a month to keep this happy? I mean, that's, you know, sometimes you have to go where the wallet is directly, and not through a big hoop where you got to please 85 people to get it done, you know? And so that we've done that. I mean, that's what we do. So, and we're not the only ones. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of pharmacists doing it, but you know, you just have to be able to say, look, I can't wait for the government to come by and say, here's money for you because I like you. You know, first comes the outcome, then comes income, right? So if you can show the outcome that you're making, and then you can guarantee it because you're putting yourself at risk, value-based contracting for KPIs.
Yeah,
that's what we've been doing for a long time. We're doing that now too.
Well, I think it's interesting. The GLP-1s, I think, is a great example of exactly what you're talking about. Is when they hit celebrities and the wealthy, we're using it almost like it was an illicit drug and getting success out of it. And that drove, like, you created this have and have-nots environment where the wealthy, if you were wealthy enough, you could go get it and you could lose weight. And then everybody else was like, wait a minute, why can't I have that? How do I get that? To the point where it becomes one of the medication classes negotiated by the president to get, you know, a cheap price for the general public. And I think that this is the same thing. It's how do we expose enough people that are saying, man, if it wasn't for this technology and a pharmacist looking over my mom's meds, she would have had a fall. She hasn't had a fall. And you create this demand or FOMO around, well, I want that. I mean, to some degree, we have it a little bit. We try to talk about it, you know, in a long-term care facility, a skilled nursing facility. You've got generally one prescriber, one pharmacy, a consultant pharmacist. You have 100% compliance and adherence. And that means we're doing a better job med management wise for you than if you're in an assisted living facility or if you're out in the community. So how do we create that FOMO around, wait, why does my mom get a consultant pharmacist in a nursing home, but out here in the community, I don't have anything like that? And that starts to spin the wheel. So any way we can work on getting that out there.
I think that the other thing, like I mentioned, is to kind of partner with some NPs, because they're the cats. I mean, remember when this all started hundreds of years ago? Nurses were over here, and everybody else was over here under medicine, like us. Everybody, nurses can do whatever they want. They don't report the medicine. They're a different wing, you know. So they're an exception in the United States, and it's wonderful. But you know, we still can work with them. We can help them. And they need help. I shouldn't say that. They want help.
Yeah,
I don't know if they need it. They want help. They want help.
No, you're exactly right about the nurse practitioner in the nursing home. And when I was still doing this 10 years ago, you know, there was, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're letting nurse practitioners prescribe in nursing homes. And I was like, wait a minute. This is a person that wants to talk to you, that seeks you out to talk to you as a pharmacist. And, you know, we had our problems with physicians and, you know, them telling us we were playing doctor and stop writing us recommendations. But the nurse practitioner was like, hey, I need you. I need your help. I don't know what to write for this person. Why don't you sit here and talk to me about that patient and we'll figure out what we should do for them. So it was a huge opportunity. And to your point, it's still there. And they are seeking support from pharmacy and from technologies like this that can give them better insight into what they should be doing.
Now, let me ask you a question. Let's say your mother's in a nursing home. Let's say they give you a pamphlet that says, we have pharmacists on staff that can help monitor her medications and optimize them. It will cost you another $40 a month. Let me know if you're interested or whatever. I mean, you go right to it. You don't have to wait for the government.
Right.
And see how many people say yes.
Right. And even maybe as we develop this business, this idea, even in an assisted living where you're already paying, somebody's already paying for that. So for an extra $40 a month, here's the peace of mind you get and the opportunity your mom or dad get, and it should be a no-brainer.
Well, and it is.
Yeah,
it's just the idea of talk it through and get a few people to try, and it'll catch on.
Yep.
You know, and you know where it's going to catch on, particularly if your mother's in a nursing home 100 miles away.
100%.
You feel guilty then.
Right. I mean, I was on a plane. I've told this story before. I was on a plane with a woman going to Florida, and she was literally only going to Florida because her mom was prescribed an antibiotic out of surgery, and she wouldn't take it. So the daughter was going to Florida to make her mom take her medication. So your point is a good one.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been a long road. I'll never forget. I'll tell you one last story. When I was had my first pharmacy at Amherst in Mount Holly, New Jersey, and we were doing blood pressures, and we had a diabetes educator there. My wife was actually a diabetes educator there and stuff like that. And I got taken up to Trenton to the Board of Medicine because I was taking blood pressures.
Oh, wow.
And you know what they said? They said, I knew what they were going to ask me to. They said, what are you looking for when you're taking blood pressure? I said, well, I look for the 5 Karakoff sounds. What do you look for? Yeah. And they let me go.
Yeah.
Because they thought I was going to say systolic, diastolic, you know?
Yeah, right.
And then they're going through back with the Karakoff sound. Well, what about, blah, 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 you know? But then they let me go. They said, well, look, if you still do that, that's fine, but don't charge for it.
Interesting.
I'm serious. This was in 1974.
That's wild.
That's still saying don't charge for today. Story.
Well, you can do, but not today, you know. I was charging for it too, by the way.
Statute of limitations, I think you're safe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it also brings up a good point too, and I know we're getting long on time, but consumerism is going to drive this. That's where people are going. I mean, people are ordering peptides from research lab companies and injecting themselves. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do. We have to be in a position to be a solution for them and a support for them.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's exactly right. It's that, I don't mean to give you a funny metaphor, but, in theology, I've always said to people that, God's not there to protect us. We have free will, but God's there to support us.
Right.
And that's what you're talking about.
Yep.
You know, you're there to support these people. You're not going to tell them we're not judging.
So
You know?
one of our pharmacy gods in Cal Knowlton has just compared pharmacists to gods, and I love it. It's a perfect
Well, that's what I
way
said.
to
That's
end
what I
the
said.
podcast.
Well,
No one else would get away with it.
I got to be careful with this, but you know.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah,
So,
that's
but
awesome.
no, you're right. I think that this thing's driving it. You know, when we were in Nokia years ago in the Finland, wherever it was, and the lady that was there giving us a tour, and she told me about her phone, and I said, "What do you do with that?" She said, "Well, we vote on it." I said, "Well, I'm a pharmacist now. Do you have your meds? Everything? Everything's right here." This is what 15 years ago. Everything's right here. I said, "Well, would you let me see some of that?" She said, "I can let you see whatever I want you to see, whether you're you or doc or anybody."
Yeah.
You know, and see that really helps it. Then you got the labs, you got everything.
Yep.
So it's going to even get better. It's just such an exciting time with this AI coming out. It really is. As Joe said very well, it's a different world than what it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where you spent a lot of time looking up literature. What the heck? What did this go through 2D6? What did it? You know, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It's
I
all
feel like pharmacy is a trailer. I don't feel like pharmacy is a leader, a co-leader in this process, but it should be.
Yeah, it should
It should be. It absolutely should be right there at the front of the line with the rest of the pieces of the puzzle. I feel like it's a feeling. Sorry, but it really feels like pharmacy's trailing. I just don't like that. There's so much of an impact,
Mhm.
crazy impact, especially in elder care. A lot of meds, a lot of problems. Like, gosh, the risk is so high. Pharmacy should be right up front.
Yep.
Well, you guys led the way with really a long-term care at home mentality before there was a thing as such as long-term care at home with PACE, and you're doing again now with pharmacogenomics and Galenus care. As pharmacists, we always talk about right drug, right dose, right patient, but now with pharmacogenomics, we can actually do that, and we could do it the first time. And so I just want to thank you guys for spending some time with us and, leading the charge here. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more. We're going to hear a lot more about Galenus Care over the next couple of years, because you guys are really cutting the edge there and making what used to be, unknown kind of the norm. And so this has been great. Chad, any last words
awesome.
or comments?
No, I think it's right on. I don't even think it's years. It's maybe, but it's coming so fast. And Joe's comments about AI and how much of an accelerant that is to everything. This stuff's going to happen real fast, and we have to be prepared
guys,
and ready.
we work with Creighton University. We have our own university, non-degree green, Galenus University, and we work with Creighton. So if you want to charge them money for the thing, they get a point, 1 CE.
Yeah.
If you
Okay.
want,
Yeah.
So
Well, Cal, I'm going to steal prove outcome to get the income. Now claiming that, it's a great one-liner, and I think I'll use that on a go-forward basis. So
anytime.
appreciate your guys' time, and we're going to look forward to seeing what more to come from Galenus Care.
Hal, thank you. Joe, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
good to see you guys.
Thank you guys.
All right.
Thank
Join us
you.
next time for RxPerience.